Hello and welcome to Parental Mental. I'm Marcus.
Hello, I'm Claire.
And today we're talking about therapy.
We are.
It's quite a wide topic, and you must be like, what's he on about therapy? Well, I think we'll just talk about our experience really with it. And
we'll just go off on 10,000 tangents anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and we'll tell you how therapy has helped us, different types of therapy, what therapy is to us. We are not the gatekeepers of therapy. We are just going to tell you...
we aren't therapists.
Oh, no, definitely not. So we're just going to give you our experience really and tell you what we think about it and why it's really important, even at a young age. Most people think that therapy is just talking to someone, but would you say there are other things that are therapy?
Yeah, I think traditionally my mind would also go, oh, you go and you speak to someone and that's therapy. But I actually think there are lots of different ways you can kind of provide therapy for yourself or, seek it in your life. I've read a lot. I've had therapy. I've had traditional therapy. It was incredibly helpful for me. I would always shout from the rooftops about how helpful it is and how everyone should have it. However, it really isn't very accessible. There's lots of long waiting times and different types of therapy that are not offered, on the NHS.
Or very expensive.
Or they are really expensive. So I find reading a lot of books. I read a lot of books on kind of the way the mind works. And I try to give myself therapy by kind of reflecting on my behaviours, writing it down in journals, and then looking back at it thinking, oh, wow, I didn't deal with that very well. I actually think you could talk about therapy being in lots of different ways.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I would say even having a massage is physical therapy, like...
Oh, yeah.
Going to listen to some music is like, sort of social therapy. And, there's so many things. What I class as therapy in my mind is, does it make you feel a little bit better? Because, what you want, when people go, oh, that's very therapeutic. What they mean is, does it make you feel better? Yeah, it makes me feel better. So, actually for us, what we like, we've got that, what was that stick called?
Palo Santo.
Yeah.
Why have we not done that in forever?
Do you know what I mean? So therapy comes in so many different ways, like this.
Oh, you used to do that when I was having a meltdown. He'd arrive with his Palo Santo. It's like you're saging me, like getting rid of my bad energy.
It is though.
But I guess that is kind of what it's doing. But
I mean, I'm a chav from Blackpool, mate. If you'd have said to me that I'd be lighting a stick and wafting it around someone's head to make them feel better, I'd be like, you're mad. But this works. Honestly.
It really does, and the children love it. They're really helped. I can't speak today. This is not a good day for me to be doing a podcast as I can't get my words out.
Deep breaths
of Palo Santo. Sensitive to the children are really sensitive to smells, and so if you've got neurodivergent children who are sensitive to smells in a good way, then yeah, that's a useful tool.
And this is it. Therapy comes in so many different forms, whether it's an oral, a nasal, a taste thing, like eating good food in a peaceful environment can be very therapeutic.
I love how you said peaceful environment.
Well, yeah, because we eat good food quite a lot, but the kids are like...
Not peaceful.
in our ear, and it's a lot, So, yeah, it's about recognising what's therapy to you. What do you find therapeutic? And then, of course, the deeper issues about, like, oh, well, I don't feel good or whatever, then sometimes you have to get more conventional therapy, which I do, which we are going to come on to. You've just spoken about how you've had the conventional therapy and it's amazing for you. Well, I'm having it currently at this moment in time. So
why? So you talk about why you make that decision.
She told me to. No, I didn't. That isn't it.
Actually, I did encourage you to.
You did encourage me to, yeah. Like I have likewise done the same. For me, I had a breakdown in about 2018. And I tried to get help on the National Health and couldn't do. I could do, actually. I got CBT and it was terrible. Didn't work for me. Found, I'm neurodivergent and CBT does work for some people. This is not me poo-pooing CBT. It works for other people. Didn't work for me. I like talking therapy. That's what I was looking for. The waiting list in the NHS was enormous. But I did go to Mind, my local Mind, the charity Mind.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, and I cannot recommend this enough. It was something called peer support. And this was my therapy. Every week I went and I sat amongst other people who were... Well, to put it mildly, I had mental health issues. We all did. It was a real struggle. We were all going through dark times, and we'd each take a turn to talk about what had happened in our week. And actually just opening up about my struggles began then. So quite a few years ago. And then COVID hit and a few other things happened, and I probably had a bit of a break. I'd got myself to a place where my baseline was a lot higher than it was, which was a good thing. But I think my dad died this time last year, and unfortunately my baseline dropped quite heavily then, understandably. And it unlocked a lot of trauma, which again sounds quite cliche, but it unlocked a lot of trauma for me, which came to the surface, something I'll talk about on another podcast maybe when we're talking about grief and things like that. But fundamentally it was time to get back on that therapeutic horse of speaking to someone about my problems. And the older you are and the more therapy you've had, I think, the easier it is to open up. I was speaking to a friend about this the other day, and he said, I really struggled to tell him how I felt. And it's like, if you're going to do it, you got to go in with your balls on the table, and probably not appropriate to put your balls on the table during therapy, but you know what I mean.
No one needed that intrusive thought, least of all me.
So
because I can actually picture that, because I know your body.
Okay, cool. Well, now you've made them think about it way more than they needed to. Anyway, the point is, you need to go out with, I don't know what else to say, your heart on your sleeves, whatever. You've got to.
That'd have been better.
It would have been better, but I didn't say that. So you got to let it all out. You got to be prepared. And even if you don't know what that is, as many times I go to therapy and I'm like, I don't know what I want to talk about today. And 10 minutes in, I'm like,
yeah, that's true, because you're given that safe space. So what would you say, what are the main takeaways in terms of what it's enabled you to do, what it's done for you in that time?
What, just having the therapy?
Yeah.
Not what the therapy is?
Yeah.
Well, it's enabled me to validate so many of my really, here I go. It's changed my life. It's changed my life.
And in turn, all of ours.
Because I can just, as we were talking about in a previous podcast, be at peace and just, there's no doubt about it. Therapy has enabled me. And again, having the right therapist that has enabled me to open up. I have a counsellor, so I've seen psychotherapists in the past, but this counsellor has enabled me to look at my past and soothe the younger me, and not just the child, but the young adult that made massive mistakes and got in lots of trouble and struggled with life and hurt people's feelings. And now I can just be a lot more kinder to myself.
And what is that phrase that you've been taught that you say to me? So
notice, validate, soothe. So when, say Claire says something that's really triggering for me, which is quite regular, I notice that I'm triggered, and I try and think about, why am I triggered? So, let's say I feel inadequate. It's like, where does that inadequacy come from? Does it come from a part of my childhood? Does it come from a part of my adulthood? And I know you're thinking now, like, well, that's quite deep, but it is deep, and it becomes second nature, and the process becomes a lot quicker. But most importantly, you soothe yourself at the end of it, and then you're a lot less reactive to the person that might be also in a really difficult moment, and they might be struggling. And if you then put your trauma onto them, which is called trauma dumping, then, and actually Claire might have been trauma dumping with me initially, but it's important that you don't let your trauma take over, and that you're there for them to enable them to process that. And that is what therapy is. A therapist will sit there, zero judgment, and they will enable you to let all of that out. And actually doing it to your partner isn't necessarily the most healthy thing to do. It's great when you can, but often it does cause a reaction, or, and actually if you're both neurodivergent or both traumatized, then it happens, and you have to be kind to each other. So not only has it taught me to be kind to me, but it's taught me to be kinder to you. And now, I try to lead every reaction with kindness. Again, not always possible, but that is fundamentally what therapy has taught me, is to just be kinder to myself, to notice, to validate, to soothe.
And how do you soothe? Can I just ask that? Because I think that's what people will be wondering. You noticing it, you're validating it, saying, do you know what, that's okay. I feel angry about that because of X, Y, and Z. How do you soothe that within your own, because that's an internal thing within your own mind. How are you soothing it?
Well, this is what's so emotional, is because unfortunately I have to kind of go back to the person that's suffering and tell them it's going to be okay. Because so much of my suffering was based around fear of where I was going to end up, or what I was going to do. What mistake was I going to make that was going to ruin my life? I lived in fear for so long, because unfortunately after my mum died and my dad moved on, he had other kids, and he had a lot going on. Like, unfortunately, I had no role model or no older person to just
To
say
support you.
it's going to
There
be
was
okay.
no support, yeah.
And living in London on my own, as much as I had friends and I had support in many areas, I was trying to be that big guy that was like, I haven't got any problems. And I just wish that someone had been able to speak to me in my early 20s and say to me, it's going to be all right, mate. Don't worry about it. We all make mistakes. It's okay. I think I would have had a much happier 20s and 30s. But
so you see that within your own mind in terms of your kind of, by acknowledging it and understanding where it's come from and validating it, you're then able to say soothing things. So like your talk within your own brain is kinder.
it's just very simple. It's going to be okay. Even now, like, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
We were talking about in the last podcast, like, is it a divorceable offence? Like, the whole point is I know I never do any of the divorce. So instead of panicking and trying to sort it out, I just go, mate, it's going to be fine. We've just had a petty argument, and it's like, it's going to be okay. But so many of my fears in previous relationships and in this relationships, my reactions are based on that person in their 20s. Albert, calm down. That person in their 20s, or even the child that was in fear and scared and trying to mask and not...
Anxious, maybe?
Oh, 100% anxious. That's all anxiety. That fear and being scared is anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And not being able to sort of just soothe... I couldn't soothe myself then. So, like, soothing it now, even soothing that part of me that's still hurt... I'm still hurting from those times. So it's soothing those. And again, like, we talk about the resentment I had for my dad after he died because of various things, which sounds, like a really negative thing. Like, therapy has enabled me to kind of process that and where that anger came from and where that resentment came from. And, like, we're talking about letting things go in another podcast. Like, it's so important. What this therapy has done is so important. It's let me just let go of those things. Just be able to kind of just go, that's not serving me anymore. Like, that anger, that emotion is not serving me anymore. Let it go. Move on. There's new emotions to be had. There's new things going to happen in my life. I need to make room in my head for all this positivity and happiness that I've got with my kids and you and actually all of that resentment and sadness from those years. It's time to move on from that. It's time to let those things go. It's time to, just give that person a hug and say, it's all right, mate. We made it. We've done all right. People like us. Our kids love us. You've got a beautiful wife. Result, by the way. And that's the thing, is like just being able to say, it's going to be all right, mate. It's going to be all right.
Do you think this is, as a man, do you think this is common in men? Because what we see in, I don't want to touch on politics or anything for now, but I think, do you feel as if this is very a common feeling, all these feelings? Because I guess outwardly, your problems might have, or did come out as anger. And I see a lot of angry men. I don't hate men. I'm not hating on men.
There is a lot of angry men.
There's a lot of health problems, I think, mental health problems within men at the moment, and there's angry men. And do you think there's a commonality here in terms of the therapy that you've been through? Do you think that that's a lot for men, that they've had to, that they're pushing down feelings because they're trying to be successful, they're trying to support their families?
I think
those pressures are meaning that they're angry.
You sort of nearly touched on politics there, but it's important to say left wing, centre, right wing. Right now, men are in a crisis, in my opinion, because what we have now is everyone's like, men talk. Men should talk more. Men should talk more. And we've been speaking about it for years now, where men should be open and men are talking. You know what? That pressure on men to now open up and talk is too much. And I actually think we've gone too far, and it's actually... We need to change strategy. It's not about pulling back.
Yeah.
It's not about saying...
They don't need to talk less, but it's like there needs to be the right support around them. They still need to talk
more. Dear God, they need to talk more. But it needs to be the environment that they're talking in. Something's not working. I don't have the answer. I'm not here now going, we need to do X, Y, and Z. Fundamentally, for me, talking has changed my life. So we need to get people talking. Albert.
Oh, he's asleep.
I know, but his snoring is ridiculous. Sorry, mate.
Oh.
Let's get a picture of him.
His face. It's like, Daddy, what?
Your noise is too much at the moment, mate. We just need you to be a bit quieter, please. Okay, thank you.
Love you.
I can't even remember what I was saying. was he saying?
The platform for men to talk, the support around men talking doesn't follow through.
Yeah, so we do. I'll go back to that. I don't have the answers. Okay, what I do know is that for me, talking has helped, and that the more men talk, the better. However, how can we create environments for men to talk? How can we get them into a space? You know, like for me, that peer support was incredible. You know, the one-to-one thing is incredible, and talking for me has never been a problem. So I'm not one of those guys that's like, you know, we need to get talking. If anything, I probably need to shut up a bit more. But there's a lot of men out there. You're talking about that anger. It is, I believe, a lot of that anger is because they're unable, you know, to show that weakness and
to express other feelings.
Yeah, because as much as we're like, oh, it's safe for men to look weak now, it isn't. It isn't. It isn't, because other men, because of the judgment from other men. It isn't women, or not from my perspective. Every experience I've had being vulnerable with women, some of them may have got the ick because that happens, but most of them have been really receptive of the fact that I was in touch with a lot of that sort of stuff. And I think men need to trust women a little bit more, and trust that actually by being vulnerable, women will let you in and will not get the ick or look at you in that way. And if any woman does, then mate, they're not
for you.
No, they're not the one. They're not the one.
I think it could start I think it does start in childhood, of the differences in the way we treat boys and girls. And I think I see more recently than I ever have parents, both the mums and the dads, treating boys, you know, very differently, and that they have to sort of be strong, or they don't cry. And you know, like I've heard so much of that. It's on school runs, and stop crying and I think it really does start there. And we're not that household. We have big emotions in this household, and they're always okay, and we let them out. And I've always encouraged very much my children to advocate for their feelings and let them out, speak to us, gather support from whoever they can. And I say to them, build a community around yourself of people that you can speak to. It's really important that you have additional adults that you trust that you can speak to, and also peers that you trust that you can speak to. I don't know how much of that happens, because again, you know, I don't have many families in my life where I can watch that happen, but I do think it stems from that in the way that we treat boys.
Yeah, I mean, I do think, unfortunately, it's very difficult to change that. We talk about generational trauma, and unfortunately, parents were taught that, and so on and so forth. And I actually do feel like there is a slight change. And I do think there are more boys that are emotionally intelligent now as they're growing up. And I do feel like, compared to our generation, and certainly our parents' generation, the younger generation is more emotionally intelligent. But something happens as they become men, that they kind of regress. I feel like, from my experience from working with people in the industries or whatever, that still there's this stiff upper lip, and men struggle to, they'll be there for each other. Men will be there for each other, but will a man open up that he needs that someone to be there for them?
It's such a vulnerable place to find yourself. And I think also now, at the moment in the current climate, it's also really, really difficult to be vulnerable, because everyone's trying to survive, and it's like survival of the fittest, and
showing that vulnerability is very hard.
Everybody's struggling. And what I notice I guess maybe we have a slight skewed view of high schools, as we have one child in a specialist high school, one in a mainstream high school. One's female, one's male. So I don't have necessarily a real life view of mainstream at the moment as a boy. But I think what I see is that it's still very uncool to be vulnerable. It's still very uncool to talk about things that mean that you might come across as like weak or whatever. I certainly don't see a platform given as a teenage male, to talk about feelings, and I don't see that happening, and that really, really worries me. There's also a lot of very, very, very strong opinions, and I think parents are giving strong political opinions either way to their children, which mean that follows with certain bigoted ideals, I think.
And creates division often.
Yeah, so I feel like the teenage years, something's going wrong. I worry about that.
Yeah, but you could argue, like, look at our years when we were teenagers, you know, like it's...
I'm not saying it was better.
Being a teenager is really hard. You're very impressionable. You're looking for a personality. You're looking for an identity. That's the word, you know, yes. And actually a political angle will give you that. But, you know, just to bring it back to therapy, you know, I think...
Yeah, sorry, there's some statistics here about Young people. Oh my God, I don't know if I've put that down. No, I don't have it. There's a statistic about young people and their mental health. And I think the destruction of social services, so, NHS services, social services for young people has meant that they have less support than ever. And I think they are the ones that are suffering mental health wise. Sorry, is that what you were saying? I was too distracted looking at that.
To bring it back to the therapy side of things, the problem, especially with young people at the moment, is actually therapy would be perceived, if you said to your mates, I'm getting therapy, it wouldn't be perceived as normal or healthy. Whereas I think, like I met up with some friends at the weekend, and as I said, there was friends in couples therapy, there was friends that were getting individual therapy, and that was like, there was 8 of us there and 4 of us were engaging in therapy. And I was like, well, how amazing is that? And obviously I've got quite a progressive group of friends. However, like it was so beautiful to see that that's being normalized now. I do, as I say, think, like let's say CAMS, for instance, they are stripped so bare. They've got
crisis.
Absolute, I don't want to say they're a joke because they've been very helpful for us, but like the resources they've got access to now are a joke. They should be doubled. There should be the waiting list to see a therapist is at least 2 years on the NHS now with CAMS, and it's probably even longer than that.
Well, you can't. The sort of precursor to that is getting on the list is almost impossible. So once you're on that list and they recognise that you are desperate for help, and by the way, you have to be desperate for help to even access the list. And once you are desperate, you're years away from actual support. And
that's what brings us back around to the very beginning of actually it's not just about speaking therapy. You've got to, especially if your children are struggling and you can notice a mental health decline, you need to find them other methods of therapy, whether it's, physical therapy, whether it's taking them out and climbing them out in, whether it's, just giving them a really hot bath with nice candles. Like it can be small things, it can be big things, but we have to look after each other. And actually a lot of kids don't want to be helped. That's another thing, speaking about young people. And it's almost like, don't ask, don't offer, just do things, just provide them through things that they like, little comforts, so that they know you're there, so that they know you care. Because as parents, you can be a therapist for your children. And it's very hard and a lot of them don't want it, but actually just listen. Just ask them a question and listen. Don't judge. Don't give them too many answers, and often you'll be like, you know what, give me some time to think about that and I'll be able to help you. You don't always have to give them an answer there and then.
That is a technique that we have utilised recently that has been golden for us in a really, really, really difficult situation, in that we didn't know how to react initially, did we?
No, I didn't.
It felt bigger than us. It felt out of our remit. It wasn't, we just needed a bit more time, and we communicated that, didn't we? We said, awesome, you've told us that information. Thank you for telling us. We really appreciate that you've been honest. We're going to take a couple of days now to just like have our own discussions and just let it all sink in, give ourselves time.
Reassure them we weren't angry or annoyed. Yeah. And in fact, anything, we were proud of them for sharing.
Yeah, but we needed time to come back with our solution. So I do think that there are different ways that you can model those behaviours in terms of giving therapy. Like you said, like there are little therapies you can give to your children. I just had a thought that we used to do with them is that give them little spa days. We used to do that with the eldest 2, and I must remember now to do that with our youngest because she would love that. Yeah. Teaching her to give herself therapy for the day.
Self-care.
Yeah, just as simple as self-care.
Because that's the thing.
It starts there, doesn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be doing it for someone else. You can do it for yourself. Like women, for instance, for long periods of time, especially when like my mum worked full time and did all of everything around the house, did all the parenting things. But on a Sunday, she'd have a nice bath or a shower, she'd do her nails, she'd put some music on. Like for my mum, she looked forward to that Sunday because that was her mini spa moment. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, self-care is just as important as looking after other people as well. They talk about when you're on an airplane, if there's an emergency, you put that mask on first before you put your mask on the children, because you have to look after yourself and make yourself be in the best position to be able to look after others. That's really important. Like, as I said, I think to summarize, therapy isn't just talking one-on-one. It's so much more than that. And, anything that makes you feel better is therapy. Anything, whether it's, just sitting down and watching a film with your wife, or just on your own. It depends. You might want to watch something different.
And something I heard recently was like expressing yourself as the opposite to depression. Depression expression.
Wow,
And
that's a good one.
Finding a way to express yourself. You might not want to talk about it. You might want to paint a picture about it. Or you might want to write about it. You might want to draw about it. Expressing those feelings in any way, shape or form is positive.
What was that thing you used to do? Would you class that as a form of therapy? It's like a diary. What are you calling it?
Journaling, yeah, definitely.
Would you say that was a type of therapy?
Absolutely, yeah, because you're expressing your feelings. So it helped me get them out of my body and onto a piece of paper, which sounds a bit mad, but it's a part of expressing them from yourself in any way, shape or form. Writing things down is a form of doing that. I also could reflect on my thoughts. So it's like taking your thoughts and putting them into either a picture or words. You can see them differently. So they're not just ruminating inside your head. You can actually reread them, re-look at them and think, oh God, that was a really dark thought. And I could look back at previous pages in dark moments where I had been writing about it. They were all dark moments, because that's when I felt compelled to write about things. And I was able to look back at them with a different perspective and think, wow, I don't realise in those times how much I'm struggling. It's really important to understand that about myself and notice it and have perspective on it. So yeah, I think there's lots of different ways, isn't there, of having therapy, but we know how important it is and how life-changing it has been for our family. So we thought it would be really important to talk about. And well done, babe, for expressing yourself. It's really brave and courageous to demonstrate that part of yourself, and I hope, really, really hope that it kind of affects other men when they watch that and think, oh, do you know what? I could do with a bit of that.
Yeah, I mean, we can all, I think, do with a little bit of therapy, even the ones that are together and healed and so on and so forth. It's always nice to actually just talk to other people. So, you know,
check in with yourself.
Yeah, 100% check in with yourself. I'm a lot better than I was, but I'm continuing my therapy because I think actually for me, it costs as much as a gym membership a month for me to have my therapy, and I get far more out of that than I do going to the gym, without a shadow of a doubt. Because actually, it's like it's practice for the mind. It's teaching the body muscle memory to do the right things when you do overreact, when you do struggle, when bad times come, when you do feel grief, when you've got stress or anxiety, or in my case, depression. You know, like the last few days, you know, I've tackled my depression. I mean, I'll speak about this very quickly because we're coming to the end now, but basically I woke up 2 days ago feeling really, really bad. I then took that day off work and I just went for a walk and I got myself in nature and I went for a run and I did a little bit of therapy in the bath and had a nice, moment with myself. And that sounds weird. Not like that, just in general, just like a therapy thing. Anyway, the point is...
You also did creative things that day. You expressed yourself creatively. Exactly. I noticed that.
So that's years of trying to work through my depression. That's a long time of therapy.
Building up techniques.
Yeah, so it's not like this is easy. I'm not sitting here going, all you've got to do is this, that and the other. What I'm saying is you can get there, but it does take a little bit of work, and remembering that self-love, the highest discipline, is the highest form of self-love. And actually for me, I have to keep repeating that to myself because my discipline is terrible. My motivation is low. And actually motivation when you get to my age and you're feeling depressed is at a zero.
Disappears, yeah.
Yeah. So you have to be disciplined and you have to know these techniques. So I just implore you all to go out there and try and find those techniques. Find what makes you feel good. What's therapy? So when that sort of dark time comes, go and put the
You've got the answers to those questions.
Put your smelly stick on. Like, that's also sounds weird. Why do I keep saying
I
weird
don't
stuff?
know, because you're weird.
Don't put your smelly stick on. You know what I mean? But just find your bits of therapy that work for you.
Yes. So thanks again for listening. I don't know what that was. Bye-bye.
No, I was laughing at the smelly stick. Love to you all. Peace out. Get some therapy.